I started off in the human hunting games a few years ago, or a little better, with a 5-year-old. And he was actually a pretty tough, really cool 5-year-old that I did not want to lose in any way. I was actually trying to keep him from some force that I believed was potentially my own family, who wanted him and had been trying to get him. And without them mentioning those desires to me, and I ran with him for over a year before they caught up with me, and they had to catch up with me a few times, and they had to really manipulate the situation and the system in order to get their way. And then as soon as they did, they were immediately trying to give my little boy to my little sister, who is part of the group of people who were pursuing us and having us trafficked. So hi, I'm LaDonna. I've been a slave for at least the last 15 years, but I'm probably a lifelong slave. And my own parents made videos of me and sold them as early as I can remember, from the time I was a toddler. And I've discovered that they taught the next generation the same trade, with the exception of me and maybe one other of my brothers. They didn't teach, I'm assuming, this illegal pornography trade. I'm on here and I've made this weird pseudo channel for people to sort of get an idea of who I am, even though I haven't really come right out and explained myself fully. But I made this because I'm trying to get my kid rescued, and it's a really weird and complicated situation that other people are able to twist and manipulate. And it is a trafficking situation, so there's a lot of illegal, weird, underhanded, shady business going on, and I didn't expect for it to be going on this long. I'm surprised that it's still happening, or that it was allowed to happen to begin with, and so I have done what I thought was appropriate before now for the last couple of years, being very open about what's going on Facebook, on Instagram threads, and I've started to get a little bit more outgoing about it on YouTube. I am about 40 years old. I do not want to be a slave anymore. When I began to notice that other people were kind of making slaves of my kids, or I began to see the same traits be carried over my kids' lives, I began to show signs of protective nature over my kids, which my family and others did not want to see. People who are part of a child trafficking ring that I have known about since I was a kid, since my dad let me in on it whenever I was 11, because part of the situation that I was in was a satanic, Luciferian child trafficking and or illegal pornography cult type situation that the that the adults were all in, and one of their things was to be able to tell you about it, because there's nothing you can do about it anyways. So it's like, if they tell you about it, and it's like, you know, this horrible mystery that you're unraveling about the world around you, then I don't know, but it's some weird Luciferian thing. Yeah, they basically set me up in these human hunting games where I had to run with my kid, and it took them over a year, and it took them over a year to actually catch up with me and successfully take my kid. And they'd already done it once, and then I got him back, and they just kept trying to do it, kept trying to do it, kept trying to do it. Alright, so I'm sorry, but like, I just made this video a second ago and it didn't work, so it's like, it's difficult for me now because I've taken an intermission since then, and now I've come back to this, and it's really important that I get this information out, but it's also really sad that I have to. It's really sad that the situation's happening, and that I've been writing about it online, and that people know about it. I've made reports about it. I crossed the country to go into the right sheriff's department just to make the just right complaint, and I told them the just right things, and I'm still in this situation. So here I am, and I'm basically like begging for somebody to go rescue my kid, or for help mediating this situation, because this is pretty serious. So basically, I guess that people were getting Social Security checks and annuity checks behind my back because they had me written up as incompetent, which is such an old type word to me, you know what I mean? It had me incompetent on paper, which basically means that everything about you is for somebody else's gain and benefit, and you don't have any say. You don't even have to show up in court because you're incompetent. So you're like this living being with an identity who doesn't get to use their own identity for anything. But anyway, it's a pretty bizarre situation, I guess. So anyways, they had me deemed incompetent, and they had me married on paper, where they were getting Social Security and annuity checks for me, and then they had life insurance policies, and they were taking the money from these annuity and Social Security checks, and they were using that money to pay these life insurance policies so that they could withdraw this money in advance from the life insurance policies. And I heard that they have me deceased in one state, which I'm assuming is the state of Texas, which might be part of the reason why everyone always refused to help me get food stamps whenever I was in Texas. They also refused to help me at the DMV, which is really weird. Sometimes it wouldn't be a refusal, sometimes it would just be a delay or a postponing or a come back in a few days when you have this or that. And then my family would do the rest of the job with like not actually letting me complete tasks, simple tasks. So yeah, there's been this controlling essence over me my whole life, which whenever I was a kid, I just chalked it up to what my dad told me was this trafficking ring. And as life would go on for me, I would get to find out who all was involved in that, which was basically everyone. The police, basically anybody who had like any kind of white collar job was definitely involved in it, things like that. I realized that I was this slave person, and I wasn't entirely sure what it was that people were holding out on me or keeping me like held hostage for and keeping me isolated for. But I began to realize that they were kind of doing the same thing to my kids and seemed to have the same plans for my kids, and are actively right now doing exactly that. They've got all my kids separated out and all the kids isolated to where they can't even really interact with each other or me. And the youngest of them is the one who really needs my help the most, but all the, the oldest, they also are kind of going to need rescue from their situations as well in some ways. What's really sad to me is that I've spoken up about this, at least writing to the feds and stuff since I was 33, and I really thought that help was like on the way, and there's been so many times, especially over the last couple few years, that I wrote the letters that I thought needed to be written, or I thought that I'd reached the right people, or that I'd given the message to the right people, and or that I'd done what I needed to do to save my kid's life. And so many times over the last couple few years, I've thought that to myself, that whatever I was doing was going to save his life, and nothing has gotten him out of the situation that he's in, and nothing has gotten me out of the situation that I'm in either. I'm hopefully about to have my driver's license again, and then shortly after I will hopefully be getting my Social Security card in the mail. I'm not sure if I should even bother waiting for that, but I guess if I want to work by chance, for any reason, that I will need that, I will probably go ahead and order anyways. Doing what I can to get my driver's license again, and an ID again, because after being robbed last winter while I was in Nevada, and I'm gonna call it Nevada because it's a terrible place. I was actually being held hostage by traffickers in Nevada last year who drugged me and everything during Christmas because everybody was worried about me catching my family visiting my kid on Christmas. And they would like do all this stuff where they'd be secretly letting my kid visit my family in secret to get my kid to say that he wanted to live with my family and that he wanted to live with my sister and that it was his idea and that he didn't want anything to do with his mom or whatever. They like manipulated. Dude, like I had gone and dug all of these crystals out of the ground in Quartzsite, Arizona, and was like on my way to like check on my kid because it had been a long time. Like they had not let me talk to my kid in a really long time. It had been over a year that they had not let me talk to my kid. Like it was a problem. I was starting to like call them and be like, what is going on? Like, is my kid okay? Like I was writing about it on Facebook and stuff like that. Like I've been really putting it on blast, and they will not, like these women will not talk to me at all. They're literally just like, they've just like waited for me to just like be taken out here and stuff. And that's just gone on for a long time. Anyways, I told myself that I wasn't going to tell you guys about how, there are traffickers in the foster network and in the family court network. I told myself that I wasn't going to bring any of that stuff up. But it is a major part of this situation because my sister and my trafficking family who have exploited my children and I online our whole lives as they've held us hostage underneath hidden cameras that they put even in my kids' bathrooms and stuff like that. Like it's pretty bad. And, those same people who held us hostage my entire life, who held my kids and I in isolation and financially manipulated us and held us as slaves and sent dudes to, so many dudes to my apartments wherever I stayed. I literally had to, at different times, like, just keep the doors shut and locked and not answer the door and not answer the phone. Not answer the tap, 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 like not even open the door to go out there and smoke a cigarette or anything because there would be dudes waiting for me on the porch. That's how bad it was. Like, that's how bad people were like sent, like the whole community around me was being paid and everybody had their little assignments and stuff like that. And it was get LaDonna messed up party for years and years of my life. Like, and I knew what people were doing and I knew that it was my family. I've actually talked about that in other videos and I'll probably continue to talk about it because it's just such a bizarre it's just all so bizarre and everything. And it's also really bizarre that I've made so many reports and I've complained about it so much, and not I'm not seeing any action at all being taken on behalf of my kid or anything. And it's been a long time. Like, I spent the majority of my life quiet about it, and then I sort of began to speak up like a little mouse in fear, waiting, you know what I mean? Just waiting for anything, any kind of help, and, speaking up for my kids and having, meltdowns and everything, like going through, I mean, it's been a really rough time of things, and then people knew that I went to the police about it. I told everybody that I could. I tried to get help. I tried to let people know that there was some aggressive stalking going on. There was some weird stuff going on. I just wrote stuff down all crappy on here, and just so that I don't miss any of just the crap, the basic rough draft stuff that I wrote. I'm just gonna read it all. It's gonna sound really elementary and stuff, but my son was kidnapped during the human hunting games. The game began for me as I was walking through someone's yard one morning. I went outside to get some blankets to make a pallet on the floor beside my son, who was sleeping on the couch. And as I went outside to get those blankets, I heard this sacrifice going on, and it was quite brutal. And they made sure that I extra heard it. And there was also women crying and everything, and you could hear that it was a very brutal bestiality type sacrifice situation. And it was one that I could not immediately react to or run away from while my 5-year-old was sleeping on the couch. And I was going to have to be really smooth about the quickest departure that I could possibly come up with under the circumstances. And whenever I actually pulled all of that off, I look back and I think I probably didn't have to be I didn't actually have to be smooth about my departure. They meant for me to run away after that, because that was the beginning of the human hunting games, or the Hunger Games. It was literally like the gun that goes off. They had a flag set up out in the yard. It was like a upside down distress flag or whatever. And then they had these sacrifices and stuff. And right beforehand, they just had me assaulted, and they'd almost broken my leg. And there was they were doing some weird spell casting, and weird stuff was going on, you guys. And it had been going on for a second. I just found out that they'd 86 Karina, which was a really, really bizarre thing. And I wasn't sure that, if other people were okay, because they were unaccounted for. I never could get them accounted for. I was speaking up for them back then. I was really trying to get people's attention back then, and I couldn't get it back then either. So I couldn't get help for any of the people who were who had passed away already, who'd already been murdered. No one would listen to that. I couldn't get help for the people who were stuck underground. I couldn't get help for the people who were potentially set up to be, I haven't been able to get help for any of those people. And in the process of that, I was, put in the hunting games, and I was run across the United States basically with my kid, and I scrambled to interact with law enforcement a little bit to give them information that my kid was in danger, that my family was trying to kind of get him, and that they were bad guys, that they had set me up to be assaulted in these different ways, and molested and stuff as a kid, and photographed, and that things were weird. and they kind of acted like, uh, um, you know, but that they had also been catfishing me online. They'd been like keeping me in isolation and sending people to me and catfishing me online and kind of seeming to do this like sex trafficking type shit. And that it had gone on for a long time. And even whenever I was trying to explain it to a dispatcher in Amarillo, and that was actually over the phone, so they might have that recorded, I don't know. But she was just like, how old are you? And I told her I was like 36 or 37 or something like that at the time. Seemingly too old for your parents to still be trafficking you, but it was just that I wasn't dead yet, you know, which was something I knew that they'd been trying to do, so I'd been like kind of keeping my eye out for these different attempts that were being made against me as they'd already been made. And so the only thing I really had on my side was to pretend just that I was completely oblivious to it, which is something that I have unfortunately had to stop pretending as I went, because people, you know what I mean, had to come out and actually say that. And, you know, as I'm trying to get help for my kid, it's one of the things that I've had to admit. But yeah, anyways, my kid's with traffickers, people who are murderers. They've been trying to murder me. They're part of a family who already killed like my grandpa. Sorry, I'm going to use the word 86 instead of that word, because I know that YouTube is a little bit particular about that. And hopefully if you're a parent and you've read my description, then you know, and it says something rather about trafficking. I'll even put it in the title, or you know, something like that. I'll make it obvious so that you know nobody can be like, oh, you've exposed my kid to whatever. Anyways, all right, there was a distress flag out in the yard. I knew that somebody else had gotten shot out there, but I didn't really see it in the papers so much. Like, I don't know really what's up with that. Also, the other people who passed away and the other missing people, they were not all in the newspapers or anything either. There wasn't really very much information about Karina, alright. And I'm sorry too, because this is the end of the day for me. This isn't when I would want to do things. This is just when I have the chance to do things, so I'm doing them. Even though I don't really have the chance to do them. It's a bad time now even, but I'm trying to do this. One of my hater/fans, hit people or whatever on YouTube, told me that unless I made a video that people actually will watch, that I'm probably not going to get any help. So I'm just going to try to make a series of videos, and I'm just going to make you know what I mean, to try to get some help, especially for my kid, because it is really difficult, I've spent every day of this human hunting games, just waking up worried about my kid, worried, ever since they took him and stuff like that, to have to wake up worried that he might end up with the same people who performed those sacrifices that I was so shocked by, and that, you know what I mean, messed me up so bad. And it wasn't exactly it wasn't entirely the sacrifices even, it was also that the way that law enforcement wouldn't respond to me needing to get help back to the location where the flag was set up. I tried to get help from New York for West Virginia, and there were still people in West Virginia whose lives were in danger, and still right now, they're still there. They're still in danger, and my kid's in danger, and I've been in danger this entire time. And because it's me speaking up about all three of these things, and I guess I'm not supposed to be here anymore, or they already have me dead in the state of Texas or something like that, so they just pretending that I don't exist and that none of my reports matter, and that none of that matters or whatever. Because I guess what they did was they had somebody pretend to be me, and then they put that person in jail, and then they killed that person, and then they collected a life insurance policy on me for that state. But I guess that also put a death certificate out on me. So it's almost like, I don't know if they're just like acting like because they have me dead in one state that no one has to listen to me or pay attention to anything that I'm saying, and that I'm just this ghost talking. I'm a ghost mom who can't rightfully be a mom. Anyways, they used some fake diagnosis about me to fraudulently adopt my kid out. And they just gave me a psychological evaluation a few years ago, and it said that they determined that I had no signs of mental illness and that I had an average to high IQ. That's good enough for me. You know what I mean? So I thought that would be the end of the story, but I recorded that one. I've recorded a couple of the family court things, and you guys can listen to them, and they're far out, dude. Like, you can hear me and I'm just being like mortified, and it's actually I'm really embarrassed by all of it, by every bit of it. I'm embarrassed that someone could kidnap my kid legally and me to just have to deal with it, and that I'm not given proper legal representation. And I've been going through this for like 6 years, dude. It was like 2.5 years the first time, and I was just like blessed by God that I got my kid back, and he wasn't entirely like messed up and stuff. All right, I'm just gonna cut into what I was saying with, there was one place, so when I ran from West Virginia to New York, I ended up being taken to this chick's house in Limestone, and I was there for months, and a lot went on, and my kid and I began to go hungry. There was a lot of really weird stuff that her mother had done to try to set us up with like rotten food that was bad, and anyways, it's just like really, really messed up. And I was having to like go out and fly a sign to get the like food to feed my kid. And I knew that they were like deliberately making us go hungry, and that they were trying to set things up, that it was a constant thing that they were setting things up to try to have my kid taken away. And I couldn't figure out why it was constantly happening, but it was specifically, it happened to all the kids, but they were going extra hard with trying to take him. And I got to the point where I finally looked at that gal and I told her, like, look, I'm gonna have to take my kid and go back to Texas, and like, we need to eat, like, we can't be living like this. And she was like, Donna, don't go. She was like, don't go back to Texas. They're the ones that, she's like, your family, they're the ones who did all this and stuff. And she let me know that she basically told me that my family was the ones that had those sacrifices, and that my family was behind the whole setup, and that the whole idea was that they were trying to get me to go to their house and stuff, and that if we went to their house that we weren't going to make it, that it was all a setup for that. Like, even though the girl was technically trafficking us and poisoning us and keeping us there and everything and stealing from us, and had set up all this bad stuff to like make us sick and all these terrible things, to have me thrown in jail, like all kinds of stuff that she'd set up. Like, when it came right down to it, she was like, if you go to your family, they'll kill you. They're the ones behind all of this. And that's what a chick is telling me from Limestone, New York, about my family, who's in Amarillo, Texas, who pretends that they never leave Amarillo, Texas, except for to go on their dream vacation cruises to the Grand Turks and Caicos Islands and all of that, all their islands They go visit islands. Alright, her mother tried to set me up with all kinds of bad food, rotten meat. They stole my social security card. Okay, and then I went through all of that, and okay, then the courts would tell me that the person whose rights that they took away wasn't really the kid's real dad, that it was really somebody else. But they wouldn't tell me who the kid's real dad is. They can't tell me that, which is pretty bizarre. And it seemed like they were taking turns, like pursuing me, and stalking me. Like once in a while I would look up and see my stepmom, you know what I mean? And she would be like, like once in a while I would look up and see one of the other people that I like. They were trying to make it extra creepy, you know what I mean? This is all I can say for now. I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna keep making these, asking for help, but I need help with my kid. I really need help, someone with like rescuing my kid from the situation that he's in. And if someone thinks that it's a problem with me, then I would appreciate you coming and talking to me about it. Instead of just letting me be out here day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, online, talking about how my kid has been kidnapped. My kid was kidnapped while I was in the Hunger Games, and I've made it through all these years, through a few years of this, and my kid ended up with the bad guys. And it seems like that's the only reason why you even put me in the hunting games, is so that you could hunt me for my kid. I mean, obviously you guys want more than that. You obviously don't want me around anymore or whatever. But that's all that I can say right now. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to get this uploaded tonight. It really sucks that my first video that I made of this didn't get uploaded the way that I needed to. I'm going to have to like make a whole new one, and that's how I feel about all of these videos. But if I don't just go ahead and upload all of my crappy videos, then I'll have no videos. That's just how it is. So I just have to keep going and uploading these crappy videos, whether my hair looks like shit. Like there were other videos where my hair looked really bad, but I'm like, I stay between here and out in the country and shit like that, back and forth. I help take care of other people while you guys have me written up as whatever. I'm actually out here taking care of other people, even though I could just be a crackhead mama the way you guys want me to be, as you're trying to have me trafficked and trying to get me messed up on whatever, and trying to organ harvest or whatever the fuck is going on here. Anyways, yeah, my kid needs rescued, and I'll be making better videos just like this one.